The 1930s were a turbulent time for China. The once mighty Middle Kingdom was a sleeping giant, weakened by internal strife and foreign encroachment. Japan, a rising power in the east, saw an opportunity to expand its empire. Driven by militarism and a belief in its own superiority, Japan cast a covetous eye on its larger neighbor. In 1931, Japan manufactured an incident at Mukden in Manchuria as a pretext for invasion. This event, known as the Mukden Incident, marked the beginning of Japan's blatant aggression against China. Within months, Japan had overrun Manchuria, a vast region rich in resources. The League of Nations condemned Japan's actions, but its reprimands were toothless. Emboldened by its success, Japan continued to push further into Chinese territory. The Chinese people, though divided internally, were increasingly outraged by Japan's aggression. The stage was set for a wider conflict, a conflagration that would engulf Asia and have lasting repercussions for both nations. The seeds of resentment sown in the 1930s would bear bitter fruit in the years to come. The clash between these two Asian giants would leave an indelible mark on the 20th century, shaping the destiny of millions. On the night of July 7, 1937, a seemingly minor incident near the Marco Polo Bridge outside Beijing ignited the flames of war. Japanese and Chinese troops exchanged fire, the exact circumstances still shrouded in mystery. What began as a local skirmish quickly escalated into a full-blown conflict. Japanese forces, better equipped and with superior firepower, launched a swift offensive. Beijing, the ancient capital of China, fell to the invaders, followed by Tianjin, a major port city. The Chinese government, led by Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek, was forced to retreat inland, moving the capital to Chongqing. The Marco Polo Bridge incident marked the beginning of the Second Sino-Japanese War, a brutal conflict that would last for 8 long years. It was a war that would test the resilience of the Chinese people and expose the depths of Japanese brutality. The world watched with apprehension as the fighting intensified. The conflict in Asia threatened to draw in other world powers, potentially igniting a global conflagration. The stakes were high and the outcome uncertain. In December 1937, Japanese troops captured Nanjing, then the capital of China. What followed was one of the most horrific episodes in human history, the Nanjing Massacre. For 6 weeks, Japanese soldiers went on a rampage of murder, rape, and looting. Unarmed civilians, including women and children, were brutally slaughtered. Thousands of women were subjected to sexual violence. The streets of Nanjing ran red with blood, the air thick with the stench of death. The city, once a vibrant center of culture and learning, became a symbol of Japanese barbarity. Eyewitness accounts from foreign missionaries and journalists who remained in Nanjing paint a harrowing picture of the atrocities committed. Their testimonies serve as a chilling reminder of the horrors of war and the depths of human cruelty. The Nanjing Massacre remains a deeply sensitive issue in Sino-Japanese relations. Japan's reluctance to fully acknowledge and atone for the atrocities committed during the war continues to strain ties between the two countries. Even as they faced a common enemy in Japan, the Chinese people were divided. Two main factions, the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek and the communists under Mao Zedong, were locked in a bitter civil war. The nationalists, with their base of support in the cities and among the wealthy elite, controlled the official government. The communists, on the other hand, had their strongholds in the countryside, where they won support from peasants by promising land reform and social justice. The Japanese invasion forced these two rivals into an uneasy alliance, the United Front. However, suspicions and tensions remained between the nationalists and communists, hindering their ability to effectively resist the Japanese. The Chinese Civil War, simmering beneath the surface of the fight against Japan, would erupt again in full force once the invaders were defeated, further delaying China's recovery and plunging the nation into another protracted conflict. Section 5: The United Front, a fragile alliance. Despite their ideological differences, the nationalists and communists agreed to a temporary truce, forming the United Front to resist the Japanese invasion. This alliance, however, was fraught with suspicion and mistrust from the outset. The nationalists, with their larger army and control of the major cities, bore the brunt of the fighting in the early years of the war. They fought bravely against a technologically superior enemy, inflicting heavy casualties on the Japanese in battles like Shanghai and Taiyuan. The communists, operating mainly in the countryside, adopted guerrilla tactics, harassing Japanese supply lines and conducting raids behind enemy lines. They also used the opportunity to expand their influence among the peasantry, gaining support for their cause. The United Front, while fragile, did succeed in presenting a more united front against the invaders. However, the underlying tensions between the nationalists and communists would eventually resurface, leading to renewed conflict once the Japanese threat had been neutralized. Section 6. The tide turns. America enters the fray. The Second Sino-Japanese War became intertwined with the larger conflict of World War II when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in December 1941, bringing the United States into the war. America's entry into the war proved to be a turning point. The U.S. Navy began to roll back Japanese gains in the Pacific, while American air power started to target Japanese industrial centers and military installations. The United States also provided crucial support to China, sending supplies, weapons, and advisors to aid the Chinese war effort. American pilots flying under the banner of the Flying Tigers volunteered to fight alongside the Chinese Air Force, achieving notable victories against Japanese aircraft. With American assistance, the tide began to turn against Japan. Chinese forces, bolstered by American support, launched counteroffensives, gradually pushing back the invaders. The Japanese war machine, bogged down in a protracted conflict, began to weaken. Section 7. Legacy of War, Scars that Remain. The Second Sino-Japanese War ended in 1945 with Japan's defeat in World War II. The war had a devastating impact on China, leaving the country physically and economically shattered. Millions of Chinese, both soldiers and civilians, perished in the conflict. Cities lay in ruins, industries were destroyed, and the economy was in shambles. The war also left deep psychological scars on the Chinese people, who had endured years of brutality and hardship. Despite the victory, China's troubles were far from over. The uneasy alliance between the nationalists and communists collapsed, plunging the country back into a bitter civil war. It would take several more years of conflict before the communists emerged victorious, establishing the People's Republic of China in 1949. The war had a profound impact on Japan as well. Its defeat led to the occupation of the country by Allied forces and a period of profound social and political change. Japan was forced to confront the atrocities committed by its military during the war, leading to a national reckoning with its wartime past. Section 8. Echoes of the past modern-day tensions. The legacy of the Second Sino-Japanese War continues to cast a long shadow on relations between China and Japan. Issues related to Japan's wartime conduct, such as the Nanjing Massacre and the use of comfort women, remain points of contention. China has repeatedly called on Japan to fully acknowledge and atone for its wartime atrocities. Japan, while expressing remorse for its actions, has been reluctant to offer a full apology, arguing that such issues should be left to historians. These historical disputes continue to fuel tensions between the two countries, hindering efforts at reconciliation and cooperation. The lack of a full and sincere reckoning with the past continues to be a major obstacle in Sino-Japanese relations. Despite these challenges, both China and Japan recognize the need to build a more constructive relationship. Economic ties between the two countries are strong, and there is growing cooperation in areas such as trade, investment, and tourism. Section 9. Towards a Shared Future. The shared history of China and Japan is complex and fraught with both tragedy and triumph. The Second Sino-Japanese War, a dark chapter in the annals of both nations, continues to shape perceptions and influence relations. As the 21st century unfolds, China and Japan, two of Asia's most important powers, face a common challenge: building a future based on peace, cooperation, and mutual respect. Overcoming the legacies of the past, while acknowledging the suffering endured, is crucial to achieving this goal. Dialogue, cultural exchanges, and people-to-people contacts can help to foster understanding and build bridges between the two countries. Addressing historical grievances with sensitivity and a commitment to truth is essential for reconciliation. The path ahead requires both sides to demonstrate leadership, vision, and a willingness to move forward. By confronting the ghosts of the past and working together to build a shared future, China and Japan can set an example for peaceful coexistence and cooperation in the region and the world.